Recently, a little pop-up burrito place in Portland, Oregon shut down following accusations of cultural appropriation. I do have to say that these accusations carried a little bit more weight than usual because the two accused white women actually went down to Mexico to copy recipes and technique, but it's still, overall, a load of old bollocks. Portland has an appropriation problem, writes Jagger for the Portland Mercury. This week in White Nonsense, two white women, Callie Wilgus and Liz Elsie Connolly, decided it would be cute to open a food truck after a fateful excursion to Mexico. There's really nothing special about opening a Mexican restaurant. It's probably something that happens every day. But the owners of Kooks Burritos all but admitted in an interview with Willamette Week that they colonized this style of food when they decided to pick the brains of every tortilla lady there in the worst broken Spanish ever. Okay, the simplest way I can put this is that if a couple of people can visit Mexico one time and then do what you do well enough that it matches or eclipses Mexican businesses in their area to the point where you feel like they've stolen some culture, too bad. You must kinda suck. And let's get real for a second here. This is a picture of a burrito from the place in Portland that closed. Can you imagine looking at this glob of wrapped up gunk and thinking, this is my culture, they need to stop selling this tortilla-swaddled goop because it's part of my heritage and they have no right to profit from it? Embarrassing. Like a tribesman getting upset because some Americans selling mud huts. And let's get picky now. In the article heralding Kooks Burritos as a hot new spot, the one that set off this Hispanic shitstorm, the two cooks' inspiration is described thusly. During an impromptu Christmas-time road trip last year to Puerto Nuevo, Mexico, Callie Wilgus and Liz Elsie Connolly lost their minds over tortillas. In Puerto Nuevo, you can eat $5 lobster on the beach, which they give you with this bucket of tortillas, Connolly says. They're handmade flour tortillas that are stretchy and a little buttery, and best of all, unlimited. Connolly and Wilgus were so enamored with the tortillas that they tried to uncover the recipe. You catch that? Flour tortillas, as in made with wheat, as opposed to corn tortillas. A natural choice, considering they were making breakfast burritos. And here's my point. Flour tortillas were a rip-off of corn tortillas, made by colonizers who brought wheat from Europe. How is this calculated in the cultural appropriation equation? Looks to me like the women who ran Kooks were ripping off a colonial rip-off, not the older corn original. Why can't we just call this karma? In any case, looking at how many cultures have something similar, calling cultural appropriation on people making and selling tortillas is a bit like trying to copyright a circle. Sure, these women tried to copy and are open about that, but the first article about them does explain that they were learning from multiple sources and had to experiment on their own to get everything right. As far as I'm concerned, the variation they came up with is theirs. I completely understand calling out a copy of some chef's complicated signature dish, but tortillas are just too simple, and the idea that Mexicans or Mexico or the particular Mexicans who were copied own the recipes, or however these people think about it, is just wrong. It's, like I said, a load of bollocks. I'm sorry, but if you want to beat these white women in business, you should do it fair and square, and not shut them down with bogus claims of culinary plagiarism. Like I suggested earlier, though, I don't think there's a very high skill or quality ceiling when it comes to breakfast burritos. They are what they are. The main consideration when going for one is probably just whether or not it will help your hangover. So when people of the wrong demographic start a burrito business that's just as good as the Mexicans can do, too bad. Should have developed a finer food culture that can't be copied so easily. Let's compare this with another simple cultural food. Sushi. It's rice, with stuff on it or in it, normally raw fish. Conceptually, even simpler than a tortilla in a way. But you're going to have a lot harder time copying the top end. You're not going to be taking a trip to Japan and then opening a great sushi place on a whim. There have been cultural appropriation controversies over sushi, sure, but it's really unnecessary because bad sushi's bad and great sushi's great. If someone's making great sushi, then they must have put in the time to become legit, no matter where they've come from. If it's bad, they obviously haven't, and they're going to fail to compete with the good stuff. Or more accurately, they're not even going to appeal to the same audience. Put it this way, I don't think Mitsu-who Araki would be sweating if a Yo Sushi chain opened next door to him. In contrast, if someone's making great tortillas to make burritos with, and they're competing with local Mexican businesses, and it's a threat because they're too good, they can outcompete, and they're going for the same audience, and it's racist and terrible, or whatever, then apparently the people doing that must have just visited Mexico once. Do you get what I'm saying? It's not the fault of the people copying you if your culture's cuisine is unrefined. And you shouldn't get to put up an artificial social justice barrier to make up for that if the wrong race or nationality person is out competing whoever you think owns that culture. The only choice that people should have is to step up what they're doing with their heritage or have it taken over by whoever makes better use of it. But, as usual, that's just another one of my harmful opinions.